All right, what's going on, everybody? So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the worst real estate investing advice I've ever heard. And it's actually going to be 6 or 7 different things that you may have heard yourself. And in fact, I hear many of these things on a regular basis. So let's get into it. All right, bad advice number 1 is that you don't need a mentor. So there's a lot of people when you're new to real estate, or people that are just kind of on the periphery of real estate, where you see different real estate mentorship programs that might cost $5,000, $10,000, $50,000. And you see different people like pitching mentorship programs and things like that. Now, I'm not saying you need to spend that amount of money by any means, but you definitely need some type of real estate mentor, because what's going to happen, let's say there's 2 people that do this business. So let's say you're person number 1, you say, I don't need mentors, I don't need coaches, I'm just going to learn it myself. You probably will eventually figure it out. The only problem is you're going to make very costly mistakes along the way. I mean, you can make easily mistakes that could cost you $50,000, $100,000 by losing out on different deals if you don't have a real estate mentor. So I would highly recommend getting some type of real estate mentor, whether you pay for one, whether a local real estate investor takes you under their wing, or maybe just listen to like hours and hours of YouTube real estate videos. But you definitely need some type of mentor, because you're going to pay for it one way or another. I can guarantee you of that. All right, the second worst piece of real estate investing advice I hear is that there are no more good deals. Everybody says there's no more good deals. And when I got into real estate, 10 years ago, I remember people were saying the exact same thing. And every year it's like people keep repeating it and repeating it and repeating it. There's always new real estate investors. There's always going to be deals out there. There's always going to be motivated sellers. There's always going to be houses that need fixing up. Out of all the hundreds of thousands of properties and different values and different zonings and different levels of motivation, it's basically absurd. It's ridiculous to think that there's no more good deals. Instead, you should evolve your marketing. You should evolve your networking. Meet more people, build your network, build your marketing, build out your team, and you'll get more deals. Me personally, I don't care how much competition people say there is or there actually is. As long as I do my marketing and network, there's always going to be deal opportunities. All right, the next worst piece of real estate investing advice is that you need a master's degree or some type of fancy degree to be a real estate investor. And I would say the opposite is true. I mean, most of the successful real estate investors I know, a lot of them didn't even go to college. So you don't need a degree whatsoever. In fact, I was looking at the curriculum for some real estate master's program, and it was just non-relevant stuff. It wasn't practical to actually be a real estate investor. Now, if you want to get a really high-paying real estate job and probably build your network, a real estate master's degree is probably a great idea. But as far as actually being a real estate investor, it just comes down to like doing marketing. You get a certain amount of leads, and then a small percentage of those will be good deals, and you put them under contract. So you absolutely don't need an MBA. You don't need a master's degree. If you have the time and money, it probably wouldn't hurt, but by no means do you absolutely need one. Okay, number 4, you need money to invest in real estate. And that's also false. That's not true. I've done plenty of deals where I've used other people's money for rehabs as well as wholesaling. Where with wholesaling, you basically just find properties and you assign the rights of the contract to people that have a lot of cash. And in every city, there's thousands and thousands of people that have money. What you'll find out in real estate is that the cash is actually everywhere. The more challenging part is actually just finding the deal. So if you focus on that, there's plenty of buyers out there that will purchase your deals. Another great reason wholesaling is probably the best way to get started is that there's no risk. So you don't need any money and there's no risk. So you can just start finding deals and putting them under contract. You should find off-market properties that are undervalued. Don't just put any random property under contract. But look into wholesaling. It's a great way to get started in real estate investing. And then eventually you can build on that. So once you start wholesaling some deals, then you can say, you know what, I actually want to rehab this. I want to do new construction. I want to do condo conversion. I want to do different things like that. You can build on it. But wholesaling is a great way to just get started. Okay, number 5. My real estate agent told me that it wasn't a good investment, or that real estate investing doesn't work. So look, there's a lot of great real estate agents out there. But the thing about real estate agents, like 90-some% of them, and I'm just making a complete generalization, but just in my own experience, they have no idea what they're talking about when it comes to real estate investing. They might give you opinions like, oh yeah, that's a great area, it's up and coming. But as far as fix and flip, off-market deals go, most real estate agents, it's just not their business. It's a completely different line of business. It would be like asking a carpenter about HVAC stuff, or you know what I'm saying. They're different people, they're different professions. So with real estate investing, you're finding deals that are undervalued and typically off of the MLS. So most real estate agents only deal with MLS properties. Real estate investors a lot of times will do a combination of both, but a lot of the good real estate investors will focus on the off-market deals. So it's smart to work with some real estate agents, but don't be surprised if the majority of real estate agents don't really want to work with investors. It's just a totally different business. But if you can find a team of real estate agents that kind of does off-market deals or knows a little bit about investment properties, it can be a great asset. I mean, you would have to probably reach out to a lot of different agents. But if you're attending like meetup events, RIA meetings, different real estate networking events, you should start to find real estate agents that do investment deals, and you can start working with them to bring you properties. Okay, the next piece of bad advice is that the market will continue to go up. So a lot of people, they'll just be under the assumption that the market always goes up, and sometimes they even factor that into their equations when it comes to evaluating properties. And if you ask a hard money lender, if you ask a savvy real estate investor, they will always tell you you should never factor in appreciation. Now, if you're purchasing a property as like your principal residence or maybe a rental property and you're going to hold on to it for like 10 years, that's a different story. But as far as like short-term flips go, where you're purchasing something undervalued and just forcing the appreciation to bring it up to market value, you should never expect the market to go up. That's very dangerous, and you should stay away from that. All right, the last piece of bad advice is that you always have to buy the worst house in the best neighborhood. So yeah, if you find a terrible house in a bad neighborhood, it could be a great deal, but it could also just be overpriced at the same time. I mean, when I look at deals, it could be a bad neighborhood, it could be a good neighborhood. It's really more about the deal. If I'm in a bad neighborhood where houses sell for $100,000 fixed up, but I can purchase one for $20,000 and only spend $20,000 fixing it up, that could be an amazing deal. Whereas if you're in a great neighborhood and it's a bad house, but it's completely overpriced, I'm not going to purchase that property, obviously. So you should have your antennas up, your radar up, whatever you want to call it. Look for properties in any neighborhood. Just make sure the numbers work. The same way with a bad neighborhood, if everything sells for like $20,000 and you get it at $10,000, it might not be that good of a deal. There might not be enough of a margin there. So don't buy properties just because they're cheap. Make sure you look at the comps and evaluate. You do evaluate the neighborhood. If it's a bad neighborhood, maybe you factor in a couple more months on the market. But overall, there's good deals everywhere and there's bad deals everywhere. You just need to evaluate them correctly. All right, so thanks for watching this video on the worst real estate investing advice. And if I could tell you one thing overall, it's get a real estate mentor. That is going to save years off your learning curve and probably save you tens of thousands of dollars along the way as well. So thanks for watching. Please like, please share, please subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.